Albany's back in session, and there's a certain mayor with a lot of big asks. What happens when ideology meets reality? The Point starts right now. Michael Gianaris is the Deputy Majority Leader of the State Senate with a big say over what happens in Albany this year. And, you know, I wanted to start talking about serious things, but my producer put this idea in my head. I cannot get out of it. So she told me that you passed a bill to come up with a day to represent the force be with you. It's May the 4th.
May 4th, that's right.
May the 4th be
Yes.
with you. Star Wars, May the 4th be with you. So I want to know, you who are one of serious lawmakers I know, what was in your mind that you should do a Star Wars bill?
There's a group of us in the Senate who are Star Wars buffs.
Are you a Star Wars buff?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Seriously?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, that's Star Trek.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
But
so how did this come about?
I mean, one of the things I enjoyed the most in terms of the perks of this office is I once got tweeted at by Mark Hamill. And he says, the force is strong with this one. They had my picture up there. So that was fun. What happened was there's actually a bipartisan group of us in the Senate.
Seriously?
Yeah, who chatted.
There are Republicans who are Star Wars people?
Yeah. And so we said, let's have some fun and do a resolution in honor of Star Wars Day. So
But May the 4th be with you?
Yes. Well, what's interesting is May 4th is Star Wars Day. But we were not done with the budget last year in time. And so we didn't want to do this while we were still negotiating the budget.
I get that.
Important things are happening. So we delayed it until I think it was May 19th. But we got it done. We had a couple of stormtroopers in the chamber. And it was fun.
So
we had fun, and
are
it
you
brought
going to
people
do it
together.
again this year, or?
I think we had our fun with it.
But still, I think that was
You know,
really
it's
fun.
interesting, and at a time when we're all very divided politically, it was a moment of levity, and it brought together Republicans and Democrats. A couple of my colleagues brought lightsabers into the chamber,
I love it.
and so it was a fun moment.
So now to get to the serious stuff. The legislature is going to be asked to raise taxes on the rich and on corporations in order to fund the city budget. It's an election year for everybody but yourself because you're retiring, but it's an election year for the governor. She says no new taxes. Where do you see this landing, and whether or not, you know, there's going to be some wiggle room so that there can be some new financial benefit for New York City?
Well, I hope there is some wiggle room. What's interesting is both the Senate and the Assembly, year after year now, have put in our budget proposals an effort to increase taxes on the very wealthy to fund some of these important programs that would help make the city more affordable.
But there's already a
for
tax on the rich.
Well, they pay taxes. You know?
No, but there's already, isn't there like a small millionaire's tax?
Yes, there is. But if you look at how much is paid in taxes by the very wealthy and how much need there is from people who are not very wealthy, and when you talk about the affordability crisis being so acute right now, we're not looking to do this just for fun. We're looking to do this to fund universal child care or free and more affordable mass transit or more affordable housing. These are real things to make life more affordable for most New Yorkers. And a lot of people, when we talk about this, say, well, people will flee New York. No, they won't. We have more millionaires today than before we did the bump you're talking about. But let me just make this point, Marcia. The people who are leaving New York are the working people who can't afford to pay their rent. So it's not the wealthy that are fleeing. It's people who are in need that are leaving.
But what are the politics of that, given the fact that the governor is running for re-election? And do you think that she's going to keep that pledge of no new taxes, or did it get easier because she's going to run against Bruce Blakeman instead of Elise Stefanik?
Well, look, she's held this line for a couple of years now. This has been not a new dynamic. What's new is that we have a mayor that's pushing with us to get this done. That's going to be the result of negotiations over the next month and a half before the budget's due. But you know, what's made this year interesting is the governor, budget office has said that we have more money than we thought we were going to have, and so we're in a place where we can fund some of these programs without necessarily going all in on the tax question. So we'll see. It's a conversation that will be ongoing for several weeks.
But also, what about taxing corporations? I know that the mayor makes a point that he wants the base tax to be the same as New Jersey. But in New York City, if you add the base tax plus the city corporation tax, plus the taxes that corporations pay to fund the MTA, the mobility tax, it doubles the tax that you pay in New Jersey. And is that a factor in worrying about whether corporations can very easily move, and would they?
It is a factor, but we're not even up to that level of detail yet. I mean, the governor's saying no taxes, period. We're trying to say let's at least open our minds to figuring out how to raise more revenue for the state. And so that tension has to be, if we can agree that we're looking to raise money, then we could figure out where to get it from specifically. Ultimately, it's the people who have money that would be paying more to deal with any additional revenue that we raise. So whether that's corporate or income, I think there's flexibility on that front, but we have to first cross the threshold of agreeing that we want to raise revenue.
But you also have a situation where the mayor makes the point that New York City sends a lot more money in tax revenue to Albany than it gets back. I think he says we send 54% of the revenue and we get back 40-something. Mm-hmm. So is there a way to carve out more money for New York City without shortchanging the other parts of the state in a gubernatorial election year?
First of all, he's correct, and I think everyone will admit that that the money flows from New York City to the rest of the state at this point in terms of the state budget. But we have to figure out how to do it. Now, what's interesting is there was this thing years ago called AIM, Aid to Municipalities, where the state provided money to the local governments around the state. New York City was included in that. It got its share of state money. And then it went away during a budget crisis several years ago entirely. It has now been restored, but not for New York City.
Right.
So every other local government around the state gets this state aid. New York City does not. So I think there's an argument to be made, certainly, that the policy, the budget policy of the state now is unfair to New York City in that respect.
But here's the question. If you have to take more money to give to New York City, what happens to the localities that are going to be shortchanged?
Well, I don't think they should be shortchanged. I think we should find additional resources, either because the budget is flush, as the governor suggests, or because we find revenue elsewhere to add money for New York City without taking away from anywhere else.
I'm interested about the politics of this gubernatorial year and the fact that originally you thought it was going to be Elise Stefanik that she was going to be running against, which some people think would have been a more difficult road to hoe than Bruce Blakeman, who's aligned himself with Donald Trump. So does that give her a little bit more wiggle room to do things because she's running against somebody who's not high in the polls at the present time?
The governor's had a very good political few months. Not only that, she initially had a primary. That's gone away now, so she's clear to November when she will face what by most accounts is a weaker opponent in Bruce Blakeman. So I think she's doing great politically over the last several months. She's put her ducks in a row. Her numbers are higher than they've been, I think, since she's been governor. So by all accounts, she's on a good path towards re-election.
But doesn't that give her a little bit of flexibility in terms of taxes?
I think it does, but you have to ask her how she views herself. And look, in politics, you always worry about an opponent, whether they look serious or not. There's a long list of unserious people who have been elected. Take a look at the White House, for one. So you never want to take anything for granted. And I think she'd be wise to pay attention to that. But I actually think that raising taxes on the wealthiest is a politically popular position. So all this talk of we don't want to raise taxes in an election year, I get why you don't want to raise taxes on working people or make life less affordable for the middle class and working class here in New York. But when you're talking about the wealthy, it's actually a popular position across party lines.
What do you think of her choice of Adrienne Adams as a running mate?
I like Adrienne Adams. She's from Queens, so a little bit of personal pride there. I think she's a very capable public servant, and I think she'll do just fine.
Do you think that she's going to add a lot to the ticket upstate?
Well, she's not from upstate, but I do think there's something historic about this ticket. It's the first time.
Two moms.
Two moms. I mean, Governor Hochul was the first mom ever to be governor, the first woman ever to be governor. And now you have an opportunity for the entire ticket to be moms and women, and I think that history should help.
They're running against two non-moms.
Which is more typical. I mean, that's been happening throughout all time, right? So the opportunity to do something different like that, I'm proud as a Democrat that that's the case. Obviously, in the Senate, we crossed that line a long time ago. We made Andrea Stewart-Cousins the first woman to lead the legislature in New York's history. We have Tish James in the Attorney General's office. So the Democrats are doing okay.
Women power.
Yes, as it should be.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. Up next, we talked about the wacky world of politics in New York with J.C. Polanco and O'Brien Murray. The boys are back to chew the political fat, J.C. Polanco and O'Brien Murray. So let's ask this question. How is Mayor Mamdani doing?
Well, it warmed up, so the streets are getting clear. You know, the city has been a mess for weeks at this time. And it used to be you had to plow the snow. Now you've got to melt the snow. I mean, he was not ready for it. There weren't enough people volunteering and all that. You know, this is a guy who wouldn't even go to a new leader of the Catholic Church in New York. I sat in this church and talked about not going to Israel. I'm a survivor. I was a victim. I'm a survivor of the Catholic Church. I've never said that publicly before, but I was even hurt at the fact that this mayor would not show up and go to St. Patrick's Cathedral that day. And nor Kathy Hochul. She could have changed the Democratic Party schedule. She could have flown down and done this. The church is a major leader in this city, and he refused to go. That's indicative of where he's running the city and what he's doing. And he can't keep the budget straight. He goes from $12 billion to $6 billion.
Yeah.
What happened to $6 billion overnight?
Well, I'm sorry, Obed.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that. Well, I have to tell you, it's too soon to tell, but from what I've seen, it's meh. Like, it's, you know, I've been grading for 26 years. I'll give him a C- maybe as of right now. I hope he gets an A. The city needs the mayor to succeed. The snow removal was terrible. It was absolutely awful. I'm in the Bronx, and we can't even get out of our areas to this day. You know, we have a mayor who, quite frankly, missed, as you mentioned, the induction of our brand new cardinal in the city. And I think that there was too much blaming for the budget on the previous administration. And then he goes to Albany, and the numbers weren't exactly correct. It's, you know, it's amateur hour. And not to mention, there's been an onslaught of appointments that have, after we review, have had some very anti-Semitic posts in the past. So not impressed so far, but he has a lot of room to grow and grow into the role.
And his deputy mayor, his first deputy mayor, is from the de Blasio days. He should have had a much better understanding of what he had to accomplish. So you give him a grade at this point. It's still incomplete as far as I'm concerned. But between the budget, between his appointments, between the number of appointments he's had that have been questioned after they've been hired and either been questioned and put in a box on the side, or actually had to resign their appointments before he even took office.
Let me ask you this question. So he had a much ballyhooed press conference a couple of weeks ago where he attacked Eric Adams. He said the problem with the budget is ABC, and he blamed it, obviously, Adams' budget crisis, ABC. And yet, after doing that press conference, a week and a half later when he goes to Albany, the $12 billion gap suddenly becomes a $7 billion gap. So did $5 billion magically appear in a week and a half?
Yes, that's what happened. And that's what he told Albany. We were looking at some things. The Wall Street bonuses came in.
Do you believe that?
No, I don't.
Does the public believe that?
I don't think so. Well, I don't think the public believes that. I don't think the public is really focusing right now on this. The truth is it's amateur hour when you blame the previous administration and say that Eric Adams never said we were going to have a problem, when Eric Adams repeatedly said that the migrant crisis was going to leave a $12 billion hole in the city budget. And, you know, the buck stops with you now. Now you're in charge. Stop blaming Adams. Stop blaming former Governor Cuomo, and handle the issues yourself.
But he also hasn't clarified what the answer is and how the math changed. Is this the projections where he's going now to the end of the year? Is this just all of a sudden there was a miscalculation and we caught up overnight, to your point, Marcia?
I think some of it was the fact that they weren't factoring in the bonuses from Wall Street.
Right.
Well, but the bonus from Wall Street are what come in now, but still you have another 5 months at this point in the budget to figure out what we're going to do as New York City taxpayers. And they go to Albany and he wants to raise taxes on New Yorkers at the get-go. The city has a spending problem, not a revenue problem, as evident by a pickup of that much money from Wall Street.
I think this is just further example that, as of right now, it's clear, like I said here for over a year, he's well in over his head. And anyone with experience would have known to calculate these numbers correctly before crying wolf. And now, next time this happens, we won't believe it. That's the issue.
So here's the issue. He campaigned against both Eric Adams and obviously Andrew Cuomo, but he wanted to replace Eric Adams as mayor. So the campaign's over. It's been over since November. He's been mayor since January 1st. At what point does it stop being anti-Eric and start being Zohran Mamdani?
I think he's going to try to pin this on Eric Adams as long as he can, because that's his excuse. It's a spending problem that he is now going to have, because if there's a budget deficit today and he wants to increase spending and then figure out how he's going to raise revenues again, he's going to raise taxes on New Yorkers to spend more money. How about getting spending under control and not begging for more money?
Wait a second. So here's the thing. So the Citizens Budget Commission on Friday came out with a letter to the mayor where basically they said in the letter, you have to revamp how a city does business. You have to make the agencies more efficient. You have to employ technology. And they had a number of other suggestions. But the bottom line, all of those add up to shrink the size of the workforce. How is a mayor who was elected with the support of the Democratic Socialists of America decide to lay off workers?
Well, he can't. He wants to, what they're asking him to do is to employ a New York City a la Doge. And you can't do that in New York City. And you can't do it as a Democratic Socialist. The reason why is that
Why can't you? I mean, the government would be more efficient and cheaper.
I know, but he won't have the will of the city council, which many of them are progressives. He won't have the support of his base. And whenever a leader loses his base, he loses control.
But doesn't it make sense?
It makes sense. A lot of things make sense. The city should have elected a centrist for mayor. Well, we didn't do that. And now we have a situation where we have a utopian for mayor. And he's promised so much that the city's going to be very disappointed if he starts cutting jobs. And quite frankly, he'll lose his base. And to something you mentioned a little earlier that Obi was talking about, it is part and parcel of what some of the weak leaders do when they go ahead and blame the prior administration. We saw that in President Trump, that until last week was still blaming former President Biden for all of the budgetary issues and all of the problems around the world. It was all Biden, similar to what we're seeing now with Mayor Mamdani.
If you look at what's going on in the city employment history, it has gone up and it has then come back down. What has only been what they've been trying to do is, of course, add more to pre-K for teachers, as we need, as a program under Bill de Blasio. One of the only good things I think he did as mayor.
And it's going to be adding teachers under 2K.
Well, and don't forget, the classroom sizes have shrunk too. So again, more teachers there too as well. So when you're talking about the teaching force, we need more teachers. Yes, no question about it. Where are we going to cut employees from? And I don't see this mayor wanting to outsource things, wanting to cut people. In fact, he wants to increase and have more people working for the city, except when they're shoveling our snow, because you couldn't hire enough.
At what point does the city have to say we can only spend X number of dollars and stop raising taxes?
Well, see, this is the issue.
That's not New York City, Marcia.
No, we have a budget
At some point, people are tired of paying.
Well, they're not. Obviously, they voted for a socialist for mayor in November.
Yeah, but
and many of us
they didn't understand what socialism means.
No, I think we made it clear in the show. I think we made it clear on your show what's happening here. You have a class president that offers chocolate milk with pizza and candy every day for lunch and all-day recess, and the class elects him for president of the class. That's what you had here in November. Don't be surprised when you can't have chocolate milk every day, and you can't have pizza every day, and recess won't be 8 hours. So that's what the city's going to have to deal with.
How many companies are going to come to New York when the costs are going up, when those that are making more than $1 million are going to be taxed more? They're going to stay in Florida. They're going to leave to Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Nevada, states with no income tax. Betsy McCoy's talking about eliminating the income tax in Connecticut. At this point, imagine for people living in Connecticut and commuting to New York with no commuter tax and avoiding having to pay New York City taxes. This is the problem. New York City has a spending problem. It must get it under control. And there has been no mayor that has been elected in recent years. Eric Adams did it to a point, but for the most part, nobody, Bill de Blasio hasn't been doing it, and this current mayor is not going to do it. They're going to spend and go to Albany for more money. But that's the problem.
The problem is that you have
about 30 seconds left.
Well, it's not going to happen. You have a very socialist, progressive wing of the Democratic Party running the show now. The idea that you're going to cut and not raise taxes on the wealthy is going to be an issue that we're going to have to just deal with unless New Yorkers start voting centrist again. He
has the Senate that we have here. Your previous guest, that is number 2 in the Senate and leaving, that is in control. He didn't have that before with de Blasio.
We have to leave it right there for now, but our conversation does continue right after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining me. It's Valentine's Day weekend. What better time to talk about the prenup revolution? Think about this. Half of millennial couples are signing prenuptial agreements before they get hitched. Do New Yorkers think love is dead, or are people just being more practical? They're weighing in on your point. What do you think about prenuptial agreements? Is it a good idea or a bad idea?
you don't love someone, don't trust them. Don't get married.
I'm not nuptialized right now, so I'm neutral.
I guess it depends on how they feel about each other, honestly.
I would say it's a good idea, but it varies from couple to couple.
Depends on what assets you have and what you have to protect.
I'm never planning to get married. That doesn't concern me.
I think everyone should do it.
Why?
Because you cannot trust anyone these days.
I think that it's smart to protect yourself.
If anything does happen, you're covered, so you're safe. You have a nice safety net.
Buyer beware.
How would you react if your partner said, I want a prenuptial agreement in order to get married?
I would say I'm not getting married.
I'd consider it.
I won't marry him.
Who makes more money?
I would hope that he would think I'm the type of person that I would not marry for money.
I wouldn't give him one because we're in this together.
If that's what she wants, then fine.
I believe that, his money is his money, my money is my money. We don't technically have to share it just because that we're married.
As long as it was fair, I would be fine with it.
Why do you think more couples are asking for prenups?
Are more couples getting divorced? I don't know.
Trust issues, propaganda.
Maybe just because it's a thing to do nowadays.
People are thinking of things in terms of money.
So their spouse won't leave them and take everything they got.
Most of them are selfish. That's what I see. They honestly just rather prefer the other partner don't get none of their stuff.
In New York, at least, a lot of people have a lot to protect, and I can understand that.
There's a lot of shady stuff going on out there right now.
Because as I said, you cannot trust anyone these days.
What, if anything, do you think more prenuptial agreements say about marriage or society?
I'm not really sure the answer for that.
Probably volatility in the marriage market and just wanting to cover their assets.
I think as the society goes, so go marriages.
It says that we've lost the confidence that we once had in each other.
We should focus more on loving each other without contractual obligations.
If you've been through a divorce, like I have, you know that it can be a very difficult thing to go through. So anything that can make it, anything that you can protect yourself and still be in line with your to-be partner, it's worth considering.